日本ウイスキーのブラインドバトルへようこそ。Whiskies SC 司会のサムです。Welcome to the blind battle of the Japanese whiskies. I'm your host Sam, and this is Whiskey and SV. Alright, so tonight I have 6 bottles here, and there's a lot to do. It's Monday night, and I'm trying to get through this very quickly, so I'm not going to bore you with too many facts, but you should know that all of these whiskeys are from the 2 most famous distilleries in Japan. The cool thing about these 2 distilleries is that they were sort of started by the same guy, the father of Japanese whiskey, and his name was Masataka Takasuru. And this particular bottle is actually named after that guy. So basically, what happened was this guy was from a family that was, doing Japanese sake distillation for hundreds of years. He went to Scotland for a couple of years in 1918 to 1920. Came back with a Japanese wife and knowledge of how to make Scotch whiskey, and he started working at a place called Kotobukiya in near Osaka. That later became Yamazaki, and the reason why it became Yamazaki was because the company Kotobukiya was actually owned by a guy called Shinjiro Tori, and the Tori in his last name is what is the part of Santori, is like basically a transliteration of his name plus the word sun to make it like Western and Eastern influence. So, anyways, Masataka Takasuru, after working at Kotobukiya, which later became Santori, he worked there for like 10 years, and then he decided to start his own distillery further up north in Hokkaido in the town of Yoichi because he thought that's better climate for aging whiskey to the way that he'd learned in Scotland. That's more closer to the climate that you find in Scotland. So he went there and he started Nikka Distillery, and that's how Nikka came to be. Okay, before we get started on the tasting, I would like to quickly also address the elephant in the room, which is to say that Japanese whiskey has become extremely expensive. And well, I lived in Japan for a couple of years from 2009 to 2011, and back then everything was cheap. But I feel like Japanese whiskey in particular has got extremely expensive recently. And well, the most recent price hike was on the Yamazaki 12. I saw a local store that had this for 120 bucks until very recently suddenly listed it last week for 170. And I know this store is not a store that is trying to price gouge. This is just what they're being charged, and they're just passing the cost to consumers. So yeah, it's I do not think this is worth 150 $170 plus taxes. So we're basically talking almost $200 for a 12-year whiskey. And yeah, I don't know. I've actually put these in order of preference in because I did a not blind tasting before, and I'm hoping that when I do the blind tasting, I'm not going to be completely off by my not blind tasting, but we'll see. Okay, so let's introduce the whiskeys. The first one is the Nikka Coffey Malt whiskey, and so this is bottled at 45% ABV. It's made from 100% malted barley. It's not clear exactly if the barley and the distillation was done in Japan, because this was uh, until very recently, Japanese whiskey was kind of a vague term. There wasn't any clear definition. Of course, now the Japanese Whiskey Association has made a new ruling, and from 2024, in order for something to be called Japanese whiskey, it must be sourced from Japan, distilled from Japan. Even the water must come from Japan. It must be fully aged in Japan. But none of that existed. So a lot of Japanese whiskey that you saw on shelf, not necessarily these, but there's questions as to whether like it was sourced from Scotland and only like finished in Japan and then called Japanese whiskey. So this is one of those that there is some question as to the heritage, because some people say maybe some of it is Ben Nevis. Anyway, let's talk about what this coffee means here. It's nothing to do with coffee, as in like the coffee beans. The coffee here is the column still. Basically, the guy who invented or who perfected the column still was this Irish inventor called Aeneas Coffey, and not Aeneas Coffey, Aeneas Coffey, and yeah, so he basically became synonymous with the coffee still, and that it's basically the difference between a coffee still and the column still and the pot still is that the coffee still does continuous distillation, and it can make it's usually used for grain whiskeys and for making vodka and for making gin. It basically takes out more of the impurities, and well, it also takes out a lot of the flavor as well. So usually you would expect that it's not a great idea to use it. So usually you'd associate it with like more smooth whiskey and less flavors, which is not necessarily something that I would like. But interestingly, in my blind tasting, in my not blind tasting, this was my favorite one of this bunch. Okay, the second model here we have is the Hakushu 12. The Hakushu 12 is bottled at 43% ABV, and it is the cheaper 12-year out of these two, usually slightly cheaper than the Yamazaki 12. Interestingly, it was higher up on the list for me, and it is made from a marriage of ex-bourbon American cask and European cherry oak, and then that marriage is further complemented with blended with some peated malt and aged again, finished in American bourbon casks. So you can definitely feel a bit of peat in this one. Not definitely not very heavy, but sort of like a Highland Park 12 type of peat. Third bottle we have here is the Nikka Coffey Grain whiskey. Now, this one is very similar in profile to this one, but it's made from 95% corn and only 5% malted barley. So it's basically a bourbon, which is kind of funny because I think of myself more as a Scotch guy, but I've actually put the two bourbony kind of things towards the top of my list, which goes to say that probably I'm more of a bourbon guy than I thought. Okay, fourth one we have here is the Yamazaki 12, and this is the most expensive bottle here, 43% ABV again. And let's see, what's this one? This one is mostly ex-bourbon, but some Oloroso and Mizunara oak. Yeah, so Mizunara oak is probably the reason why this is very expensive, because it is notoriously difficult to work with. It's a Japanese type oak. It's a Japanese oak that is very expensive and hard to work with because it's porous and a lot of alcohol is lost from it. So yeah, I don't know. It still doesn't justify $200 for this bottle. Definitely not. Fifth, we have the Nikka Taketsuru, and this is a blend. I believe it's a blend of the Yoichi and the Miyakigyo, which are the two like kind of sub brands within Nikka. And yeah, it's a limited edition one, I think, and it bears the name of the father of Japanese whiskey, Masataka Taketsuru. Okay, last we have the Hibiki 12-year, and it comes in this very nice glass/crystal case. And this is a blended whiskey, but it's blended from the three sub-brands that Suntory makes. So it's a blend of the Yamazaki 12, or at least some sort of Yamazaki, some sort of Hakushu, and also the third one is, I believe, Chita, Chita, which I don't have any here, but that's not very readily available in America, but it's like the third sub-brand of Suntory. Okay, so there you have it, the 6 bottles that I'm going to blind. And let me get Laily to come in and mess these around so we can get started. Okay, see you soon. Laily!
Hi everyone, my name is Laily. I'm Sam's sidekick for the channel. I'm helping him in shuffling the glasses so he can get in and guess the correct or not the correct one, which that makes me happy because from now on I will add the amount of the price of the bottle to my shoes bucket. So like I have a benefit in him not picking the correct one. So before further ado, let me shuffle. I want to do something exciting. Okay. Okay. Perfect. I hope we can live. Yeah. I hope we can pick wrong more than one. See you soon. Bye.
All right, so we're back. Let's do it. Starting with this first one. Okay. This Smells a lot like a bourbon. There's vanilla, there's caramel, um, some fruity notes as well. Okay, let's actually taste it. Yeah, pretty sweet arrival. Some spices towards the end. It also has some maltiness. So it does make me wonder if this is actually the Nikka Coffey Malt. Yeah, there's some maltiness. So I'm gonna say this probably is the coffee malt. Let's go to the next one. That's kind of fruity. There's a hint of sherry. So, hint of sherry makes me think it's probably the Yamazaki 12, maybe? There's quite a lot of maltiness on the nose as well. Okay, let's taste it. No, it has peat. Um, this is definitely the. This is definitely also just the one next to it. It is the Hakushu 12. The peat there is just completely obvious. Um, yeah, and then on the aftertaste as well, earthy, peaty, as well as those malty flavors. I actually like this more. Um, I should have put this as my number one actually. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, now this is very, very bourbony. Just vanilla, fruits, caramel. Yeah, very, very fruity. But lots of vanilla actually. Okay, very sweet. Not much malty. Hmm, that's very sweet. Yeah, it's yeah. I think if you think about bourbon, yeah, this is just a tastes like a bourbon. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So far, it seems like Laily didn't even change anything. So I'm pretty sure that Hibiki, I got the Hakushu 12 right. I'm pretty sure I got this right. 90% sure I got this one right as well because it's basically kind of the same profile that probably is coming from the coffee still. And then yeah, and then on top of that, like there's some maltiness because it's a malt. Okay, let's go to Yamazaki, or what's next to Yamazaki anyway. Mm. There's some faint sherry nose in there. Quite a bit of malt and some spices towards the end. Some oak. Yeah, it's decent. It's not bad. It has a bit of a bitter end. Some citrusy flavors as well. Um, I don't have a whole lot of familiarity. I've had this bottle for a very long time. Um, and I don't know the difference between. I don't know if I could tell the difference. I think this is actually is the Yamazaki 12. I just which means like Lady didn't change anything at all, which is kind of weird. I think I would know if it was the Hibiki. So I would say this is either the Yamazaki or it's the Nikka Takasuru. But I'm not sure if these are the best glasses for nosing, to be honest. I feel like a lot of things don't really stand out in these black ones for some reason. Okay, let me try. Mm, yeah, this is more the oak influence in this is a bit more, and it's malty. Not getting a whole lot of sherry, to be honest. Maybe some faint sherry there, um, on the palate, and then some fizzy as well, fizziness. But the oak in this is very apparent. So yeah, between these two, I'm not sure which is which, and I don't know which one I would prefer, honestly. They both have a bit of a bitter aftertaste. Okay, let me go to this final one. Weird. That also has a bit of a vanilla and fruity kind of flavor to it. Interesting. I thought I would have been able to tell which one is hibiki, but so far I haven't tasted one that's hibiki. Actually, I remember hibiki being a little bit more bitter than the rest. And this profile is actually a lot more like the Nikka, the two Nikkas that I tried. So I think this must be the Nikka Takesuru then. It's definitely hmm. It's very vanilla and fruity. Um, some caramel. Now I'm getting completely confused. Yeah, not sure. I want to put this next to. I want to put this next to the Nikka Takesuru, but now I could be getting these two wrong because I think this is more close to the malt. This definitely had the maltiness. Um, this definitely didn't have the maltiness. This is definitely the Hakushu 12 because of the peat. It's just unmistakable. So theoretically, the Hibiki should have some Hakushu, so it should have some peatiness. Um, actually, I don't know if it'll have the peatiness, but okay, let's try this again. This is more pleasant. I feel like this is. I hope this is the Yamazaki 12 because yeah, it has sherry. It has some sherry in it and oak, so very malty as well. And the oak is it's a strange malt, yeah. It's a strange. It's a bit of a. It's an interesting oak. Let's put it that way. Okay, so let's try this again one more time. Hmm. Yeah, this is definitely malty. Yeah, this tastes like a blend. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like the everything in it is more muted. So I'm pretty sure that is the hibiki. Okay, so I think this is it. I'm not gonna change my mind now. Um, it is what it is. Let's get Laily to come in. Laily,